Have you ever stood in your kitchen holding a jar of ground spice in one hand and a fresh root or seed in the other, wondering which one is actually better? Maybe you've heard chefs insist that fresh spices are always superior, while your pantry tells a different story. Rows of neatly labeled jars that are convenient, affordable, and ready to use. So which is it? Are fresh spices really worth the extra effort? Or do ground spices get an unfair reputation? The truth is more nuanced than most people realize, and today we will discuss all that right here on History of Simple Things. Let's start by clarifying what we mean. Fresh spices usually refer to spices used in their whole or natural form. Things like fresh ginger, garlic cloves, turmeric root, cinnamon sticks, nutmeg seeds, or whole peppercorns. Ground spices, on the other hand, are those same ingredients dried and crushed into a powder. They come pre-processed, shelf-stable, and ready to sprinkle. Both come from the same source, but the way they're handled makes a huge difference in flavor, aroma, and even how they behave in cooking. The biggest difference between fresh and ground spices is flavor intensity. Fresh spices contain volatile oils, the compounds responsible for aroma and taste that are still largely intact. When you grate fresh nutmeg or crush peppercorns just before cooking, those oils are released in real time, giving you a bold, layered flavor that feels alive. Ground spices lose these oils gradually over time. Even when stored properly, exposure to air, light, and heat slowly dulls their punch. That's why an old jar of ground cumin can smell dusty, while freshly toasted cumin seeds fill a kitchen in seconds. Aroma plays a huge role in how we experience flavor, and fresh spices usually win this round. Our sense of smell does most of the work when we eat, and fresh spices release complex scents that ground versions often can't match. Fresh garlic has sharp, bright notes that mellow as it cooks. Fresh ginger offers heat, citrus, and sweetness all at once. Ground versions still taste good, but they're more one-dimensional. That doesn't mean ground spices are bad, it just means they're different tools for different jobs. That said, freshness isn't everything. Ground spices shine when it comes to convenience and consistency. Not every recipe needs bold, explosive flavor. Sometimes you want a subtle background note that blends smoothly into a dish. Ground cinnamon in baking, for example, disperses evenly through batter, while freshly grated cinnamon stick might leave uneven bursts of flavor. Ground spices are predictable, easy to measure, and much faster to use, qualities that matter a lot in everyday cooking. There's also the question of cooking method. Fresh spices often perform better in dishes where they're cooked gently or added early, allowing their flavors to bloom slowly. Fresh turmeric and ginger thrive in soups, curries, and stir-fries, where heat softens their sharp edges. Ground spices, on the other hand, are excellent for dry rubs, spice blends, and baking, where uniform distribution is crucial. Toasting ground spices briefly in oil can also revive some of their aroma, bringing them closer to their fresh counterparts. Storage and shelf life are another key difference. Fresh spices don't last forever. Fresh ginger can dry out, garlic can sprout, and fresh herbs can wilt within days. Ground spices last much longer, often a year or more, though their flavor fades over time. Whole spices, like cloves, peppercorns, and cinnamon sticks, actually sit in the middle ground. They store almost as well as powders, but retain flavor longer, especially if ground just before use. For many home cooks, whole spices offer the best balance between freshness and practicality. Cost is another factor people don't always talk about. Fresh spices can be more expensive up front, especially if you only need a small amount. Buying fresh turmeric root or whole nutmeg for a single recipe might feel wasteful if the rest goes unused. Ground spices are cheaper per use and easier to portion. However, because fresh spices are often more potent, you may need less of them to achieve the same impact. Over time, the cost difference isn't always as dramatic as it seems. Health benefits also come into the conversation. Fresh spices generally contain higher levels of active compounds, antioxidants, and anti-inflammatory agents. Fresh garlic produces allicin when crushed, a compound linked to various health benefits, but this forms less effectively in pre-ground garlic powder. Fresh turmeric contains curcumin in a more bioavailable state, especially when combined with black pepper. Ground spices still offer benefits, but some of their most delicate compounds degrade during processing and storage. So does this mean you should throw out all your ground spices and start cooking everything from scratch? Not at all. The real takeaway is that fresh and ground spices serve different purposes. Fresh spices excel when flavor is the star of the dish, when you want brightness, aroma, and complexity. Ground spices excel when you need speed, consistency, and balance. Many great cooks use both, often in the same recipe. Think about a curry, for example. You might start with whole or fresh spices, grated ginger, crushed garlic, toasted cumin seeds, to build depth. Later, you add ground coriander, chili powder, or garam masala to round everything out. It's not a competition, it's collaboration. Each form contributes something unique. In the end, fresh spices aren't automatically better, and ground spices aren't shortcuts to bad flavor. They're tools. Understanding how and when to use each one gives you more control over your food and more confidence in the kitchen. And that's really the point. Not cooking like a professional chef, but cooking in a way that makes your meals more flavorful, enjoyable, and uniquely yours. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.